They were more than friends. They were brothers. But one night, a single betrayal shattered everything. In the heart of New York, trust turned into a deadly game, and loyalty turned into a weapon. What happens when the person you trust the most becomes the reason for your darkest nightmare? This is not just a story of friendship, it's a story of betrayal, revenge, and justice served cold. In the restless city of New York, where dreams rise as fast as they are crushed, two boys had grown up together like brothers. Michael Harris and Daniel Collins. From childhood, they were inseparable. They played basketball on cracked Brooklyn courts, shared peanut butter sandwiches when money was tight, and stood up for each other in every schoolyard fight. Michael was calm, disciplined, the kind of boy who believed in honesty and hard work. Daniel, on the other hand, was ambitious, charming, and always hungry for more. He was the type of friend who could talk his way out of any trouble, or talk his way into bigger ones. Despite their differences, their friendship felt unshakable. People often said, if you see Michael, Daniel won't be far behind. Years later, life seemed to reward them. After college, both friends saved money and started a small real estate business. They flipped rundown houses in Brooklyn, repainting walls, fixing broken stairs, and selling them for a decent profit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was theirs. On late nights, after long hours of hammering nails and cleaning dust, they'd sit on rooftops overlooking the glowing Manhattan skyline. Daniel would raise a beer bottle and laugh. One day, Mike, that skyline is gonna be ours. We won't be just two nobodies from Brooklyn. We'll be kings. Michael would smile, though he never let himself dream too wildly. For him, success wasn't about being a king. It was about security, stability, and loyalty. But Daniel's words carried a dangerous spark. One winter evening, Daniel burst into their office with his usual excitement. His eyes burned with an idea. Mike, I've got it. The deal of a lifetime. If we put $200,000 into this new project, we'll double it in less than a year. This is bigger than houses, bigger than Brooklyn. This is our way out. Michael stared at him, cautious. Daniel, that's all the money we've got. If this goes wrong, we're finished. Daniel smirked, patting Michael's shoulder. Have I ever let you down? Trust me, brother. This is the beginning of everything. The word trust hung heavy in the air. Michael wanted to believe. For 20 years, Daniel had been by his side. How could he doubt him now? And so, after sleepless nights and endless hesitation, Michael agreed. He signed the check. He handed over every last dollar they had worked for. That night, as Daniel celebrated with champagne, Michael quietly whispered a prayer. Please don't let this be a mistake. What Michael didn't know was that this decision would be the beginning of his downfall, the start of a betrayal so deep it would stain their friendship with blood. Weeks passed. Michael checked his phone constantly, waiting for updates about the big deal. Daniel had promised quick returns, but now his calls went unanswered. His texts were left unread. At first, Michael thought it was just business delays. But then, one morning, he walked into their Brooklyn office and found it empty. The computers were gone. The files were missing. Even Daniel's desk was cleared out. Panic tightened in Michael's chest. He called Daniel again and again, but the number was disconnected. For the next few days, Michael searched everywhere. He went to Daniel's apartment. The landlord said he had moved out overnight. He asked mutual friends, but no one knew anything. It was as if Daniel had vanished. Then one night, Michael's phone buzzed with a photo message. It was Daniel, standing next to a brand new Lamborghini in Miami, his arm around a glamorous woman, holding a glass of champagne. The caption beneath the photo read, "Living the dream." Michael's heart shattered. The realization hit him like a knife. Daniel had taken everything. All their money, all their work, all their years of trust. The next day, Michael finally reached him on a new number. His voice shook with rage. Daniel, why? That money wasn't just business. It was my life. It was our future. On the other end, Daniel's voice was calm, almost mocking. Relax, Mike. You always played it too safe. I'm just doing what I had to do. Grow up, business is business. And our little book of friendship? It's closed. The line went dead. For hours, Michael sat in his dark apartment, staring at the city lights outside. The city kept moving, kept breathing, while his entire world had collapsed. Bills piled up. Without their business, he couldn't pay rent. The landlord gave him 2 weeks before eviction. Michael's family, his younger sister and his aging mother, were disappointed, angry, and eventually distant. They couldn't understand how he had trusted so blindly. Soon, Michael lost everything. His home, his family's trust, even his will to live. But underneath the grief, another fire began to burn. Every time he remembered Daniel's cold words, "Our book of friendship is closed," that fire grew hotter. He replayed their childhood memories in his head. The basketball games, the rooftop talks, the promises. And now, every single one of those memories felt poisoned. Michael whispered to himself, "You took my money, Daniel. You took my family's future. But I swear, I'll take something you can never replace." For the first time in his life, Michael felt something stronger than loyalty. He felt vengeance. That night, he packed a small bag. He sold the last of his belongings for a bus ticket. And quietly, without telling anyone, he left New York. Destination, Miami, the city where Daniel was living his dream. The city where Michael planned to turn that dream into a nightmare. The bus ride to Miami felt endless. Michael sat by the window, watching the endless highways blur past, his mind racing. He had nothing left to lose, and that made him dangerous. He replayed Daniel's mocking words again and again. "Business is business. Our book of friendship is closed." Every time those words echoed in his head, Michael's fists clenched tighter. He wasn't just chasing stolen money anymore. He was chasing justice. His kind of justice. Miami hit him like a wave of heat and neon lights. Tourists laughed along the beaches. Expensive cars roared past Ocean Drive, and the nightlife pulsed with music and desire. But Michael didn't come for the beaches. He came for the man hiding in plain sight. For 3 nights he wandered the streets near South Beach, scanning faces, listening, searching. Then finally he saw him. Daniel. He was outside a club, wearing a designer suit, laughing with strangers as if nothing in the world could touch him. A Lamborghini was parked nearby, its black paint glowing under the streetlights. Michael's heart thundered, but he stayed hidden in the shadows, watching, waiting. The next few days he followed Daniel everywhere. From luxury clubs to rooftop bars, Daniel lived like a king. He had a new circle of friends, all chasing his money, his drinks, his lifestyle. None of them knew the real Daniel, the boy who once swore he'd never betray a friend. Michael realized something important. Daniel wasn't careful. He flaunted his wealth, surrounded by strangers, and never looked over his shoulder. That arrogance would be his weakness. Michael needed a plan. He couldn't just walk up and confront him. Daniel had money, connections, maybe even protection. If Michael failed, he'd be thrown in jail, or worse. So Michael waited. He started blending into Daniel's world, slipping into the same clubs, dressing like another shadow among the wealthy. He overheard conversations. He noticed patterns. Daniel always left the clubs late, usually drunk, with only 1 or 2 people beside him. He never used bodyguards. And he always drove his Lamborghini himself. That's when the idea struck. One night, Michael slipped into a grimy motel room near the edge of town. He spread out a stolen notebook and began writing every detail he had observed. Time, routes, weaknesses. He mapped Daniel's nightly routine. 11 p.m., enters the club. 2 a.m., leaves, usually drunk. 2:15 a.m., drives down Collins Avenue. 2:30 a.m., parks in his luxury condo near Brickell. It was a schedule carved in stone. Michael smiled to himself. If Daniel lives like clockwork, I'll break that clock. But Michael wasn't just after his money anymore. He wanted Daniel to feel the same kind of helplessness he had felt, to know what it meant to be cornered, abandoned, betrayed. So instead of striking immediately, Michael began a slow, methodical game. First, he sent Daniel a reminder. A small envelope slipped under his Lamborghini's windshield, containing nothing but a childhood photo, the 2 of them, arms around each other, grinning after a basketball game. On the back, Michael had written in red ink, "Did you forget me?" The next night, Daniel looked uneasy. He kept glancing over his shoulder. But by the 3rd night, he was laughing again, pretending nothing was wrong. That arrogance. Again. Michael's second move was sharper. Daniel returned to his condo late at night, only to find his front door slightly ajar. Heart pounding, he rushed inside, but nothing was stolen. Everything was in its place, except for one thing. On the glass dining table lay a single object. Daniel's old friendship bracelet, the one he and Michael had tied as teenagers, swearing never to betray each other. Daniel froze. His hands shook. He looked around, but the apartment was empty. Michael had been there. The fear was beginning to sink in, and Michael knew it. He followed Daniel for another week, striking small blows. A broken taillight one night, a threatening voicemail the next. A shadow in the alley behind him. The more Daniel panicked, the more reckless he became. He stopped sleeping. He started drinking heavier. He fought with his so-called friends. Michael whispered to himself in the darkness, "Now you understand. Now you know what it feels like to lose control." Finally, Michael was ready. On a moonless night, he waited near Collins Avenue, hidden in the shadows of a parking garage. At exactly 2:10 a.m., he heard it, the roar of the Lamborghini's engine. Daniel pulled out of the club, swerving slightly, too drunk to notice. His music blasted through the car. He thought he was untouchable. But tonight, the streets didn't belong to him. Michael gripped the crowbar tighter, his eyes locked on the glowing headlights. His pulse was steady. His plan was in motion. And for the first time since the betrayal, Michael felt alive. The night was heavy with silence. Miami's neon glow flickered in the distance, but Collins Avenue felt like a deserted hunting ground. Michael crouched in the shadows of the parking garage, crowbar in hand, his heartbeat steady. For weeks, he had been nothing but a ghost, whispering warnings into Daniel's life. Tonight, the whispers would become screams. At 2:10 a.m. sharp, the black Lamborghini tore down the avenue, music pounding from its speakers. Daniel was behind the wheel, sunglasses still on, a bottle rattling in the cup holder. He thought the world still belonged to him. Michael stepped forward. The car screeched as Daniel slammed the brakes, headlights burning Michael's silhouette. "Mike?" Daniel's voice cracked. "What the hell?" Before he could finish, Michael smashed the windshield with the crowbar. Glass shattered, shards raining across the leather seats. Daniel screamed, fumbling with the door, but Michael yanked him out, dragging him onto the cold pavement. For the first time since the betrayal, Daniel's arrogant grin was gone, replaced by raw fear. "Why, Daniel?" Michael roared, his voice breaking. "We had nothing but each other. And you chose greed." Daniel stammered, his voice trembling. "Mike, listen. I can fix this. I'll give you money, more than you lost. Just let me go." Michael's grip tightened. His eyes burned with tears he hadn't shed in months. It was never about the money. It was about trust, about family. And you killed it. Michael dragged Daniel into the empty parking garage. Every step echoed, like the ticking of a clock counting down Daniel's final moments. Daniel begged, pleaded, offering cars, money, anything. But Michael wasn't listening anymore. He wasn't after possessions, he was after justice carved in blood. He forced Daniel to his knees. "Do you remember that promise we made? Back when we were kids?" Daniel's eyes darted around, searching for an escape. "Mike, please." "We swore," Michael whispered, leaning close, "never to betray each other. That bracelet, those words, they meant something. To me. To you, they were nothing." Daniel's voice cracked. "It wasn't personal. It was just business." That sentence, those exact words, were the spark. Michael lifted the crowbar high, his arms trembling not with hesitation but with rage. One brutal swing, the sound of bone cracking, a scream that echoed into the night, again and again, until Daniel's cries faded into silence. When it was over, Michael stood trembling, the crowbar slipping from his blood-stained hands. For a long moment, he stared at the broken figure on the floor. The boy he once called a brother was gone. The man who betrayed him was gone. And in their place lay nothing but emptiness. Michael stumbled out of the garage, breathing hard. The night air hit his face, cool and sharp. Miami glittered as if nothing had happened. The city pulsed with life, cars, music, laughter, while Michael carried the weight of a different world inside him. He walked for hours, disappearing into the streets. No one noticed him. No one cared. By sunrise, he was on a bus again, leaving Miami behind. He didn't know where he was going. Maybe he didn't need to know. He had nothing left to lose, but nothing left to prove either. As the bus rolled north, Michael leaned against the window. He whispered to himself, "Justice isn't clean. It's not noble. It's ugly. And it's mine." For the first time in months, he felt something like peace. But in the dark corner of his mind, a question lingered. Had he avenged his betrayal? Or had he become the very thing he swore he'd never be? The road stretched on, endless and uncertain, and Michael vanished into it, a man reborn by vengeance, forever haunted by it. At a quiet coffee shop in Miami, Michael sat alone, writing in his diary. Friendship's betrayal isn't just a memory, it's a wound. And wounds only heal when revenge is complete. But remember, betrayal never ends with just one story. There's always another secret, another revenge waiting in the dark. If you want to uncover what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell icon, and join us for the next chapter of Betrayal and Revenge.